Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Movie Mates video. It's been a long time. Apologies about that. I'm Matthew, of course, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Cal.
Hey, man, great to see you. So, as I said, it's been a while since we've recorded a video on the channel. It's been like a month or two, and yeah, we do have a few reasons for that. And today we're kicking off the videos back with a TV show that we've been reviewing recently, a TV show that has finished recently, but we sometimes we're sometimes late to the trend, and I don't think we're at the point where this is irrelevant because there's still a lot of Marvel Disney Plus projects about, and still has further implications for the universe. So yes, as you've seen by the title, it's the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the recap from episodes 4 through 6, so the ones that we missed. So yeah, I'll pass over to Cam to explain like the gist of what we're going to be talking about in this episode, whether we're going to be talking spoilers, those kinds of things. So yeah, off to you, man.
Yeah, we really enjoyed this show, so we wanted to make sure that before Loki came out, we had the chance to cover every episode. Seeing as we only got up to episode 3, the show was something special. I think it was very different to WandaVision. I'm not sure that it was. I mean, I suppose we'll talk about it in comparison to WandaVision because it's the only direct comparison. When it comes to products out of Disney Plus. But we're going to talk about the tragedy that is the death of Lamar, whatever his name was. I think Hoskins, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure. But, that was
Battlestar, what
actually
a
quite a
guy.
tragic moment. We'll be talking about costumes. Everything good. It's probably going to be quite a long episode, which is very. It's a bit disarming because we haven't really even we haven't done a podcast episode in several months. So immediately going into probably 40 minutes to an hour, cue the hour and a half runtime, I'm sure.
Yeah, we
It's
always
it's
gotta
it's
go
it's a bit
overboard.
daunting.
Yeah, no, you're right, mate. You're right. And yeah, apologies for not being as active as we'd have liked. We just sometimes, because we kind of do sort of long seasons in the channel where like we do a lot of videos in 5 or 6 months, then take a few months break. Like I think that works. It works better for us because then we can get time to sort of collect ourselves and sort of take a break and stuff. So we're hopefully back for good now. Obviously summer's coming up, uni's finished and stuff. So we're hopefully going to be bringing out a lot of content for you guys. And yeah, thank you very much to everyone who's recently subscribed as well. So nice to see. We really do appreciate that a lot. And yeah, that you can go check out
Don't
our
know how we
other.
managed it,
Yeah, I
honestly.
don't know either. I'm surprised myself. But yeah, you guys can go check out our other Falcon and the Winter Soldier videos in the playlist as well. So as
I
Callum
mean,
said,
as we've seen over the last few days, the sex addiction episode is a big hit. So
yeah, apparently
I
so.
think it's maybe some runoff from that.
Yeah, potentially so, mate. Potentially so. And of course, you can check us out on iTunes or any podcast provider as well. A lot of our older episodes, I'm definitely working on trying to get some of the newer ones up there as well. So yeah, you can check them out there as well. And yeah, I'd imagine anyone who's watching this right now is either knows us personally, or if they haven't, then they definitely have watched the show because so full spoilers definitely. Um, but yeah, I mean, episode 4, mate. I've just reflecting upon my notes here because we did still make notes during even in the time we're off. We still did make notes on things, so just to
Hmm.
sort of help us. And a lot of the notes I made were on the day the episode aired, so a lot of them I'm just trying to think, what does this mean? My first
Hmm.
note I've got here is in episode 4. I said something about Sebastian Stan's acting being amazing. Now I'm a bit confused as to what that could relate to. Is there kind of like an emotional beat in that episode? I can't remember. But one thing that
I don't remember.
one thing that definitely
Because I
does.
think it's episode 5 that sort of takes us away from the central story, isn't it? And it
Yeah,
returns with Sam back in his hometown. So yeah, I don't really know what that could be.
yeah. Well, I suppose the main crux of episode 4 is, like you mentioned, Lamar's death. It's tragic, mate. Exactly, isn't it? I thought he was a great character, to be honest. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I loved him, and I think the show clearly wanted us to because his death is, it's not like if in that moment it had been John Walker that was killed by the terrorists or
Mhm.
by the Flag Smashers. Uh, you know, I think the show wouldn't have wanted us to exactly shed a tear, but the way it was played, I think the show really had had a soft spot for Lamar and wanted us to share that with them.
1,000,000%, yeah, and especially with it kind of being, I suppose this episode is really a John Walker style episode as well, and his fall from grace, if you will. Obviously, I think he takes the serum in this episode, doesn't he? So he's kind of a bit sort of unstable as well. So it's a real sort of character study as well of that character. And personally, I think he was my favorite character in the entire series, to be honest with you, mate. And I think this episode really did sort of do a lot to sort of portray his kind of reasons for doing certain things, like his vengeance, and how that sort of differentiates him from Steve Rogers. Captain America is like this, like Steve Rogers has lost loads of people close to him, but he would never react the way John Walker did, if you know what I mean.
How loud does the very busy road beside my house sound to you?
It's not I can't hear anything, mate. I can just hear your beautifully crisp voice, so everything's all good on my end.
All right, that's all good, because I'm sure looked furious for the last 30 seconds, because it's painful.
I thought I said something about a flight or something. I was worried.
Yeah, and again, once again, when it comes to the notes, this having been probably 2 months ago since this episode aired, that does bring up some issues, where maybe my opinion changed by the episode, by the time episode 6 has come out. But at least as of when I was watching episode 4, I did at that moment kind of think that the whole story about who was going to be Captain America and John Walker, his whole character, it kind of feels a bit unnecessary. Like, I feel like this show may have been, its biggest purpose was just sort of maybe trotting out old fan favorite characters, and I think that was maybe enough. I think maybe a 3-episode show where it's like just them against the Flag Smashers, and bringing all these fan favorites along for the ride. I think as sort of a vehicle of fan service, that might have been enough for me.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. And it's weird because there's not like something.
I mean, you don't get the commentary, but you get conciseness.
Yeah, I mean, there's not something I can specifically fault with any of the episodes in this show. It's so weird, but there's not necessarily anything that makes me want to rewatch it in a sense. Like, not that it's bad, not very little things that that Disney and Marvel put out are bad, but, and I don't mean it like that. I just mean that I just think you can tell a lot was edited out from this, and I feel like a broken record because I say these kind of things in every sort of Marvel, Disney Plus TV show review, especially Falcon Winter Soldier. Like it feels like a lot of these shows are just filler. Like, there's not going to be major implications for the wider universe there, but also in the fact that it, like we're kind of saying and given context behind these episodes, it feels like there was a huge plot line cut out here and that's not present. So that's why the Flag Smasher plotline for me feels like a B plotline, a C plotline for something that's in the bigger picture that just is not there, been cut out. I suppose, I'm guessing you feel the same or differently. What do you think?
Yeah, for people that aren't aware, that there have been suspicions that there was a excise plotline regarding some kind of pandemic, and that's why the Flag Smashers were stealing vaccines in the earlier episode, and why there's some kind of appearance of frequent deaths amongst their community, and that was maybe an inciting factor to them building their ranks, and the showrunner of this show, I think it's Malcolm Spellman, has said that there was a big cut plot line, but he refuted that it was related to a pandemic. So I think we'll never know. I think Kevin Feige will make sure that that's very tight-lipped, but absolutely there is the sense that something is missing, and I agree. It really makes the motivation behind the Flag Smashers falter, and it really. Do you sympathize with the Flag Smashers? Because of course, I think their cause of bringing down borders and ushering in inclusivity and respect among countries, that's very admirable. But when you do it through violent means, then that's where I start to call it into question.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly an element of sympathy you have for those characters, especially like Carly. Is it Carly Morgenthau, I think her name is, in the show? Sorry, it's I haven't rewatched any of the episodes, mate, so apologies. And yeah, I do agree with you, mate. Like, it's hard to sympathize with these kind of this group because there's a lot of violence there as well. And I don't know. One thing I will say about the show, like I feel like a lot of the episodes, because the Fly Smashers are kind of just this blanket sort of group with no real standouts. I mean, you've got Carly Morgenthau there, but I wouldn't say she's particularly like a particularly standout performance or standout character there. I think you could sort of replace that role with any other actress or anything like that. Like, don't get me wrong, like the actress did a great job, but I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of like a cookie cutter villain where you could have that with, you know, literally any other group, like, you know, the Hand in the MC or something like that. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel like for me, that's where a lot of the episodes don't have that rewatchability, and they do kind of blend into one. You know, that being said, I think this episode has probably the most iconic shot in the series, with sort of John Walker with the bloody shield and stuff. Like, I would say it's one of the best shots in the MCU in the last 10 years. Like, it's that good. It's a fantastic scene. But it's they're few and far between, those kind of memories, those kind of shots from the show, because a lot of it does just mesh into one for me. What do you think?
Yeah, it is where that moment is where the show peaks cinematically.
I agree.
You know, where you just go, that is powerful, and it has, you know, real life political connotations of you know, violence in different countries on either side.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that is one moment where I really called into question. You know, John Walker says that you know, I've written the DM. I don't know who that is. This is where abbreviations really come to screw me. But, you know, presumably some kind of governmental organization. You know, he asserts that, you know, they have no jurisdiction under the case. But I mean, he's America's hero, and the target is a non-American who's committed, you know, an act of violence on non-US soil. What jurisdiction does he think he has?
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
Dora Milaje. That's the DM.
He smashed
it. You know, he says that they have no right to be there because they're, you know, because you know, the criminal isn't Wakandan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
she's not American either, mate.
Yeah, I mean, the show really does, in a way, it's like, I really do appreciate how it did get quite political as well. You know, and those sort of stories do have to be told to an extent. It's just, for me, it was a little too sort of not political, because I don't mind. I honestly don't mind that, but it's just a little bit too, like, you know, this government does this government said that. Like, it's a lot of sort of like what I would sort of liken to in the sort of the Star Wars prequels, where it's like a lot of sort of Jedi discussions and stuff in the Senate. Like, it's a lot of senatorial hearings, and here's that pretty much the same. Like, there's a lot of like governmental hearings about different things. You know, should John Walker be retired as Captain America? Should he not? Those kind of things. And don't get me wrong, like, I think they all have their place in the show. It's just, I was a little bit sick of, like, you know, these characters can't be here. Sam and Bucky have to do it their own way, kind of thing. But you know, it was a little bit sort of, will they, won't they? And I kind of was a little bit frustrated by that, I suppose.
Yeah, I see what you mean. You know, I suppose it's how you look at, you know, media, you know, in general, whether you know, you search for escapism, which I think most people do in superhero films, or whether you know, they want this sort of, you know, cutting close to the bone, you know, political, you know, commentary. And you know, I think that's maybe just, you know, not where our you know, where our interest lies when it comes to sort of fantastical content. You know, if I want to see political stuff, you know, I'd seek that out in it by different means. You know, I don't think Marvel needs a monopoly on, you know, every, you know, representing everything, you know, within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, and that's it, man. Because I think this show, one thing that was apparent, you know, from the marketing and stuff before it even, you know, come out, was that, you know, this is going to be in the similar vein of the Winter Soldier, you know, the Russo film, the Russo brothers film. And no, I was really, and to an extent, like, there was a lot of similarities, but I don't know, mate, it feels so far removed from that. Like, it just feels so different. It's sort of less spy oriented, but and stuff, and it just feels a bit, I can't really put a word on it, mate, to be honest with you. I was hoping it was going to be like the Winter Soldier, you know. I was hoping it was going to have that similar tone, that similar energy. And don't get me wrong, like, this show's fantastic. Like, it's got a lot of similar vibes to that, but didn't really hit the mark for me in terms of just the overall tone and the overall sort of energy I was getting from it. I don't know if you felt the same.
Yeah, the portrayal of, the quote unquote villains of the piece, it's a lot more ambiguous. Whereas in Winter Soldier, that film's all about, corruption and conspiracy, and about objective evil, because, Hydra are essentially the
Yeah,
MCU parallel to the Nazis. So it's much more clear cut there than it is here. And sometimes, when you're watching Marvel, you want that to be lighthearted entertainment. You don't necessarily want to have, some kind of ethics debate.
yeah.
In your own mind, what you're watching, what you would like to be light entertainment.
Yeah, Callum, like I think you've hit the nail on the head there, mate. I think for me, maybe the frustration with the show is that it was a little bit of a there was less sort of what's the word, there was kind of less clarity in terms of who is the villain of the piece, like you said, with the Captain America films, it's Hydra kind of thing, whereas here you were always questioning like who's the power broker, which side Zemo's on, what's going to happen with John Walker. And I think individually that's an okay thing to have, but I think there was too much confusion surrounding the motives of different characters. And I think, like I said, you can have that, maybe like one or two of them. I think it would work, but it feels like every single character in the show was balancing some kind of confusion, be it Sharon Carter, Zemo, John Walker, Bucky, Sam. Like I just wanted a character who was confident, who knew what they were about and things. And I just feel like I didn't get it in the show really. But that means that's not to take away from the character development that was, because the character development is excellent here. It's just, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know if that made sense, but that's how I was feeling.
Yeah, I don't see the portrayal of, who is the villain is, I don't think of that as positive or negative. I don't think it adds or, takes points away from the quality of the series. It's just a different way of doing things that, is not my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of prefer, I like when the villain and the hero have equal screen time, but it's clear who's the hero, who's the villain. I think my favorite comparison, or, my favorite example of that would be Daredevil season 1 and Daredevil season 3, where it's like 60-40, Daredevil and Kingpin. So you see the full world of crime, and then the full
Yeah,
world of the side of the hero, and
definitely.
it's all, as much as Kingpin would say it's that there's grayness between the both of them. It is pretty clear cut, and that's just my preference. I would never say, the show is less than anything because of how it chooses to portray that, because it is important that stories like this be told, and you watch content that causes you to have a sort of internal conflict, an internal debate, because they are real world issues. It's just not necessarily, this isn't necessarily the vehicle for those questions that I would prefer.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right there. It's definitely not for everyone, but that being said, it doesn't mean people can't take enjoyment from that. So yeah, I think you're spot on. With that in mind, mate, I don't have anything more to say in episode 4 of the show. If you've got any more remarks from yourself.
One quick comment, which was, of course, this is one of the last appearances of Zemo within this show, and it's at least the last sort of big big appearance he has. In episode 5, I think he's taken in by the Dora Milaje, and then in episode 6 we see him in the raft.
Mm-hmm.
But in this episode, we see him. This was something I was really thankful for, because there was one moment there where the serum was sort of covered across the floor. There were multiple vials of it, and I was like, is he going to take the serum so
Yeah,
that he can then take down all the super soldiers? But then he destroyed all of them, and I had massive respect for them. Keeping
true to
that character
character.
consistent. Because he's already murdered a bunch of people, so he may as well stick to the code that he's chosen to live by.
1,000,000%. And with all that sort of complexity around surrounding his motives, I think it was definitely a character that served the show well, and definitely stuck true to his character. I love Daniel Bruhl in that role, and I think he was really good. There's so many iconic moments here as well that we probably mentioned in early episodes as well. Namely him having a wee boogie in the dance floor. But I mean, yeah, I think you're right, mate. I'm so glad he didn't. It would have ruined it for me, to be honest with you, if he would have taken it, because it just would have made every plot line in Civil War and thereafter pretty much futile. So I'm yeah, glad he stayed true to character.
So I don't have anything else on that episode. Do you want to rate the episodes individually, or do you want to just power through and then rate the series?
I can go either way, mate. Although to be fair, all my ratings for the episodes are 10s out of 10, so it's kind of a bit weird because I don't know. I don't On retrospect, I can't look back and think that episode's 10 out of 10. But with that in mind, I can't really find any flaws in it. Like it's a really weird one in my
Yeah,
head, mate. I might just have to review it retroactively at the end of the podcast.
yeah. I find rating television very difficult because I think comparisons between films are a lot more obvious. Like you have in your mind what the gold standard of filmmaking is, and then you compare everything else to it. But
Yeah,
when you have a series like this, like what are you comparing it to?
yeah,
Because if you compare it to, probably the closest MCU project, that's, Captain America Civil War, Captain America The Winter Soldier, but those are films. So I mean they're two completely different animals. So like I have no idea what, when we review Riverdale, we compare Riverdale to past Riverdale. But that's also not a, valid comparison for comparing it,
yeah.
to quality of television because it's obviously, you know, terrible by every other standard.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think you're right. I think it is really hard to sort of find a comparison. And you've seen a lot of different reviewers on YouTube and stuff. Like they have different rating systems to us. Like I just think out of 10 works well for us because otherwise with grades and stuff, like you give a film an A and a B. Like what differentiates those? You know what I mean? Like So I think it works well for us. But likewise, it is hard to determine like what can I give this episode. Do I review it in the context of the season or the MCU or what? So yeah, I think I might just have to review it retroactively at the end of the podcast as a season potentially. Um, but I suppose, mate, did you want to
Yeah,
move
because I
on?
think we can both recognize that we haven't seen these episodes recent enough to
Yeah,
know how good they were individually.
yeah, that's it. Like I said, I haven't rewatched any of the episodes, and um, it's weird because it's only a 6 episode miniseries, but it felt a lot longer at the time. Even if you compare it to WandaVision, like it feels the same length to WandaVision, even though looking back, WandaVision, it did go on for a while, like it absolutely did. But yeah, I mean, I suppose, mate, do you want to move on to the penultimate episode, episode 5 of the season? Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I mean,
This was
oh,
the
go ahead.
episode where I was like, I think this show, even at 6 episodes, is too long. I don't really know what the sweet spot is for television. Obviously, I think you recognize when a show is 22, 23 episodes long. There's filler episodes, and even the best episodes, their budget's low because they've stretched it across, this far too wide and expansive season. So shows like The Flash, the effects are, on the lower end of quality, and the writing is pushed a little, because it has to, storylines have to stretch further, and you just feel a bit wiped out, after having
Yeah, you do.
watched it for 8 months of the year. And usually in my mind, 6 to 8 episodes I think is the absolute sweet spot. But here I just don't think there was enough story. Like I think this was clearly a movie, but they just couldn't get the support behind it to back themselves to actually make it a film.
Yeah, I agree that it does. It does actually. That's a really good point, mate. It does feel like a movie. I'd almost like it. The producers went to Kevin Feige about this, pitched it as a movie, and Kevin Feige was like, we'll compromise with the miniseries." So that's how it kind of feels to me, anyway. So I think, yeah, you're really sort of saying how I'm feeling there, to be honest, mate. And on this topic of sort of getting burnt out with TV shows as well. I suppose you got to remember as well with the MCU, like we've watched every single project of the MCU, or pretty much every single project, and yeah, it can burn you out as well because every project's different, but the underlying formula is still there. The humor is still there. The characters are reasonably the same, and it's hard to sort of keep up to date nowadays, especially with Disney Plus rumping out loads of different shows yeah, I feel like it has decreased my overall hype for them. Like I remember, like if 3 years ago, like someone would have told me, like, yeah, you're gonna get like loads of MCU shows and movies in the same year, I would have loved it. But no, I kind of think, I don't know, the hype's not the same because the content's always there. Um, for me, and yeah, what you're saying there about the show being a bit too long, I think you're 100% spot on, mate.
Yeah, I think people, saw that this was going to be a similar vibe to the Russo Captain America films. I think they saw that as a strength, but before we went in, but then it is just more of the same, at least tonally. What it actually touches on, commentary wise, is says something brand new. But I just don't think it had enough of that for a movie, and then they padded the rest out with just familiar stuff. I really feel like it could have been like a strong lower budget film.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. It almost feels like a fan film in a way, too, with all the vibrant costumes, especially towards the end, which we will get into because they're worth talking about. But yeah, with this episode specifically, I mean, a lot of my notes here are just based on purely the action, because it's a very action focused episode, and for the most part, the action is phenomenal in this show. Like you said, the Dora Milaje had a nice sort of different style, a different combat style there. And it's funny because I've got a lot of questions in this episode as to like, who was that lady? Is Sharon the power broker and stuff, which is obviously rendered useless now to talk about because they're elaborating on in literally the next episode. So I can't really say too much there. But that being said, I think the highlight for me is the Sam Wilson workout montage, which is absolutely fantastic, mate, to be honest with you. He gets just to the shield very quickly, to be fair, like just a little bit in the garden, just a little bit of frisbee in the garden, and he's a pro. It's weird. Fair play to him.
Yeah, because I think we both recognize that the Rocky films aren't perfect, but the way they film sweet workout montages is unparalleled. But here, they give it their best shot, and it's very admirable.
It is, mate, 100%.
This was the first episode of the season where I was like, for whatever reason, I was not in the mood. I was just like, I do not want to sit through this. For whatever reason, how I was feeling that day. I suppose I was miserable at the thought of watching it. But the idea of this cameo, this incredible cameo that was teased, a few weeks before, the idea of that getting spoiled was enough to power me through. And then I was just so furious, less furious than I was with WandaVision. But of course, the revelation was that it was Julia Louis-Dreyfus playing a character from the comics. So I'm not a comics fan, so the character was not a big deal to me. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, I haven't seen her in anything else, so her appearance itself didn't amaze me. So like I'm just frustrated that they keep gassing us up for such disappointment.
Pisses me off,
I thought
mate.
I saw it coming. I saw her heels click clacking against the floor, and I was like, this is the moment. And then there was just this cringy name exchange, and it was just so deflating.
Mate, it really worries me, because with the MCU now, because they've pretty much introduced every well-known sort of minimum C-list comic character. Whenever they have cameos now, they have to resort to like D-list characters, so like no one's heard of. So like the reveal's never going to be the same. Like I get it, like it's almost a victim of its own success, because if you've never introduced War Machine in the show in the MCU yet, and you introduce him here, that's a pretty cool cameo. Like that's a big character. That's a nice cameo to have. But if you've got that actress, even if you've got someone like Batroc the Leaper, like a George St. Pierre cameo, like I would say a lot of people just like the cameo because they like George St. Pierre. Like it's not because they're pretty big Batroc fans, you know what I mean? Like George St. Pierre is probably a bigger name than the Batroc character. They'd be more well known than the Batroc character. So it's so weird. It's a victim of its own success. And I just worry in the future when they try to hype us up for cameos, and they're introducing, I don't know, Vince Vaughn as Frogman or something like that. That'll actually be pretty cool, to be fair. But do you know what I mean? Like that level where it's like the hype's not the same.
Yeah, no, it was just like just release the episodes, let it play out. Like all of the promotion they do just absolutely kills it for me, because they reveal too much, and then they gas people up for the wrong stuff, and it's never going to live up to the expectation. People online, people can be a bit ridiculous with their expectations, and then they can be aggressive in comment sections. But I think a lot of the expectations of WandaVision were fair. Definitely with the appearance of Mephisto, that expectation is fair. And then Paul Bettany, of course, people would respond with him saying that it's going to be this fantastic cameo. They were probably they were probably a bit optimistic with who they thought that could be. But you're expecting someone. So when it's literally just Paul Bettany playing a different character,
Yeah.
of course you're going to be deflated with that. Like that people said they were a victim of their own expectations. I think that's unfair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when they go out of their way to lie, or like not necessarily lie, 'cause that maybe is a bit harsh, but like fib and sort of tell deceptions of the truth for cameos, and it's almost an element, mate, of clickbait. It's like a YouTube video with like a title that's a little bit clickbaity. That's what it is. It's to get people to watch the episode, and then just for the ratings. I believe that's what it is. And don't get me wrong, like I think that the shows aren't on that level where like they need people to watch them. Like they're not desperate for viewers, I don't think, because they've got millions. WandaVision was the most successful show of the year, I think, or is the most successful show of the year. And the hype around Loki, to be fair, although I'm not feeling it, is pretty big. I can't deny it. So I don't think they need that audience, but it's just annoying me that they have to stoop to that level of, we've got a cameo tune this week. It's you don't need to say that. Don't build up hype that is not required. Is how I feel
When
about it.
Town of Paris said that the engineer would blow our minds, and then it was just a character that isn't even from the comics. Like I was broken. Like I think thinking that it was going to be Reed Richards, I never really had that instinct. I think people who thought that were there was a bit of delusion there. Though like you can't say it was unfair to expect someone big. When the cast themselves is
exactly,
hyping it up. But to move away from that, this episode actually sort of steps back from the Flag Smasher storyline, and we spend time seeing Bucky and Sam operate outside of their alter egos. And I don't think we would have missed that time if we didn't see it, but it was still nice.
Yeah, especially with I'm not sure if it's this episode you're referring to, or is it maybe a different one? I might have mistaken it, but it is this episode. Like they fix Sam's boat and stuff, and sort of bond and stuff. Like
I mean, I don't know how they manage. They get that boat in like 3 episodes, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is where they actually bond, and you actually recognize
nice,
friendship there for the first time.
It's the highlight of the show for me, because I really like those actors. I think they have a good bond. So I that was probably my favorite element of the show, especially with seeing Sam's family and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was lovely to see, mate. It was a highlight for sure.
And this episode finishes on a famous cliche of television, and this is a moment that they would eventually set up Sam's Captain America costume reveal. But the moment that I'm talking about is a moment where a character looks at something but the audience doesn't see it. They crack something open, like the case that held his costumes, and they look at it and they smile, and then it cuts to black. And it's genuinely one of the most infuriating things a TV show can do, especially if you're waiting on a week-to-week basis. Do you think the suspense that creates is worth the irritation?
It gets people talking about it, mate. It gets breakdown videos popping off. It really does. But it does annoy me as well. I think the only instance where I think it works is in Spider-Man 3, actually, when sort of Peter looks at his costume and stuff, because that's actually a good moment. But then again, like there's no real mystery there, because he's just going to suit up normally, so there's no real frustration.
And you don't have to wait for a reveal.
Yeah, exactly, mate. And it frustrates me as well, because this episode I can remember being less action packed, so you kind of wanted something to kind of hype you up, and that does come in the final episode. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I mean that cliche does my head in, to be honest with you. Yeah, I wouldn't be a big fan.
I don't have anything else on that episode. Do you have anything further?
No, mate. And I suppose you mentioned the plot, about Cap's costume there. I suppose, did you want to move on to episode 6 and sort of break that down, because that's probably the major talking point for me, because I really like it. I really do, really like it. It's very comic book like. It's almost sort of more comic book accurate than the comic book, if that makes sense. Like it's very bold, it's very vibrant. I do like it, mate. I can't deny it. It's fantastic. Do you like it?
Yeah, it is the biggest impression of the episode. It was my first note as well, and it's the first real talking point about the episode. And I'm conflicted on it. It of course looks very cheesy, and white never really works on film. But like, I'm very happy that he kept the wings.
Yeah.
I appreciate comic accuracy. That was something that was big for me. When people were talking about the two Quicksilvers, I appreciated that. Aaron Taylor Johnson's, had a more comic book look, and he had the
Mm.
Eastern European accent. It felt like he was really trying with the performance, where Evan Peters was being Evan Peters. As delightful as that is, I admired the performance of Aaron Taylor Johnson a bit more. So I'm big, even though I'm not a comic book fan, comic book accuracy sort of gives me a bit of a giddy feeling, just because it's sort of what I've grown up with, like comic book adjacent content, especially with Spider-Man the
Yeah.
animated series. So costumes have been a big thing for me, and how I view the success of films. I think there's a lot of things that I can let a film get away with if it gets certain things right. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I think delivered the perfect Spider-Man costume that has been unrivaled before or since. So I am conflicted because I was just immediately like, wow, that's the white's a bit too much. But you can't argue that it isn't, an exact translation from the comics. So I think the positives outweigh the negatives for me.
I mean, I think that's a good analysis of it, to be honest with you. It almost is that good that it doesn't work, but for me, it just teeters on the edge of yeah, like you said, the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where it does work. I still think for me, the best costume in these Marvel shows is the Daredevil costume, because it's sort of, although it's not like although you don't have like the double D's in the front and stuff, it's still fantastic. It's still sort of street level, but also, it's got a bit of tangibility to it. Like you can sort of tell, like, if you hit that, it would hurt. Do you know what I mean? Like it's got that. Whereas this one, like, it does feel a bit like a muscle suit, even though Anthony Mackie said he didn't need to wear one. I don't know, but it does feel like sort of kids sort of, Spider-Man, Captain America costume you pick up from Sainsbury's kind of thing. That's how it feels. But that being said, it looks phenomenal, so I'm not going to critique it too much. It looks great.
Yeah, quickly on the Daredevil suit, like it could do with being more red, and the horns
Yeah,
could
I
be
suppose.
bigger,
Yeah.
but like I don't know how you I don't think that you can realize the double D in real life without it just being laughable.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It's a very comic book-esque costume, mate. You're definitely spot on there,
Because I
and
mean, no other character just wears their initials.
yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
Superman by consequence of
but
the
he gets
House of
away
L
with it.
symbol,
He gets away with it because
wears an
he's
S.
yeah,
But it's not quite the same thing. Like you do need a logo, but nothing else naturally materializes for Superman. But
Mhm.
yeah, Daredevil needs to work on that, I think.
That's why I still prefer the Daredevil sort of old school, just black costume with like the scarf over his head and stuff. Like, I actually generally do like that. I think it works. But yeah, back to the Falcon Winter Soldier. In this episode, it sort of brings back John Walker, but with his kind. We didn't really mention this in the last episode, but he's got kind of like a Tony Stark-esque moment in a workshop where he's building his own Captain America shield, which kind of got me thinking, like, if someone punches that thing, like, John Walker's fucked, because like it's such a flimsy little shield, like it's homemade. It's like, I don't know what it's made from, but probably like, cans of Heinz or something. It's probably not that good. But that being said, I just think they get his character so wrong in this episode. It's insane. Like, he's cracking jokes about Abraham Lincoln. Like, I don't know what's going on here, mate. I didn't like it. Like, he's just killed a man a couple episodes ago. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, there's a few ways of looking at it. Of course, like I mean, I think before he took the serum, and before he killed, a member of the Flag Smashers group, I think people just hated him either because they felt he was taking the place of Chris Evans,
Hmm.
with people even like directing hate towards Wyatt Russell himself,
Yeah, that was
or
awful. Like,
they just hated him because they knew where the character was going.
hmm.
But if you actually just, if you looked objectively at his actions, before he kills, the member of the Flag Smashers, he is just like he's just fine. There's kind of like
Hmm.
nothing good or bad. I was completely ambivalent on the character, morally and just uh functionally. So he doesn't actually take a turn whatsoever until episode 4. Before he's just maybe a bit cocky. He has some delusions of grandeur where he thinks he's as good as Steve Rogers.
Uh-huh.
In the role of Captain America. So that was sort of the only place he had an issue in my mind, until episode 4. But even in episode 4, you know, it does again depend how you look at it. You know, he should have just apprehended the guy, of course. You know,
I see what you're
but
saying.
you know,
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
good enough for the U.S. government, you know, to you know, to not arrest him. So I mean, you know,
Yeah,
take that as you will. But you know, by this episode, he does come away with sort of a redemption arc until he
he
then
does. Yeah,
agrees to be presumably, you know, a hired gun, I guess, for
the U.S.
Julia,
agent, I suppose.
yeah,
Yeah,
Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, Valerie or whatever her name is. Uh, so yeah, I was a bit disappointed because I felt like he had a full arc. You maybe think, you know, that there was a missing link, you know, where he didn't really get a redemption. You know, like do you think he kind of just went from uh sort of morally gray to just, you know, sunshine and rainbows? Do you think that was a bit too quick? Like,
I
do you think
don't.
they missed a step?
I feel so. And you know, one thing I will say, I think Wyatt Russell gives the best performance in the show. He's actually I think he's one of the only people who looks different every time he's on screen. Like I don't know if that makes sense, but like especially in that Cap costume or the new Cap costume, he looks so different every scene. But I mean, yeah, he's coming away from the show. I think I hope to see more of him because the US Asian character is a character that's very intriguing in the comics. You know, I think there's a lot to be done there, and the new costume's pretty cool. Even though if it is just, even if by John Walker's own admission, it is just pretty much spray painted black from his new Cap costume, it does look pretty cool. It does look great. And a character I still feel a certain way about is Emily Van Camp as Sharon Carter. Now, I was just a little bit disappointed, mate, because I don't know. I just with the whole reveal of, you know, the power broker and things, you know, I just prefer her as just a good character. But there seems to be a bit more of a menacing thing going on there. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, I think Marvel does a lot right. You know, it creates you know, very, you know, content that's, you know, fun and you know, engaging for, you know, all ages. You know, I think it really does a lot of stuff well. You know, the content is constant and, you know, it's of usually a high quality. You know, even if you can somehow make 4 films a year, you know, as one studio, and they're all, you know, mediocre and above, that's still impressive. You
100%.
know, because if you
100%.
think about, you know, the I was gonna say the Fast and Furious franchise, but I'm actually a big fan. You know, but if
As
you
we
think of
found out.
any other, you know,
Yeah.
long spanning, you know, film franchise, you know, they're releasing one film every 4 years, and they're, you know, maybe mediocre or below, you know, and then this franchise is releasing 3 to 4 a year, and they're all pretty impressive. You know, they, like, you can't really deny that
Yeah.
success. But one thing they're absolutely shocking at are twists. And you know, it's never been more apparent than in these Disney Plus releases, because you know, the twist here about you know, about Sharon Carter being the power broker, I don't know if it's no, it was equally as obvious as it was that Agnes was Agatha in WandaVision.
Hmm.
You know, the power broker reveal is really just, it's so underplayed. You know, it's
Yeah, it's shite.
obvious that that
Yeah.
it's her, and then the show doesn't make a big deal about it. Like, at least do one or the other. Like, at least back yourself with it being a good reveal that you make it a big moment in the show. Like, they made it a completely nothing moment and obvious, but still want you to be shocked. Like, I'm just, I'm assaulted by the confusion there. You know,
Yeah.
I'm baffled, honestly.
And that's where it leads into me, man, feeling like something's missing there. There is a bigger villain at play. And by the looks of it, she's just bloody killed GSP. She's just bloody killed Batroc. Am I right in saying that? Or I haven't really rewatched the episode. Is Batroc just is he dead?
From what I can tell, she just point blank shot him. So like, I guess he's dead, which
I'm
I mean is
heartbroken.
pretty disappointing. I think, because I mean, he was a breath of fresh air in every scene he was in.
Yeah, and for me, I'm kind of I feel like the show I don't know if it tried to play like Batroc coming back as some kind of twist as well, as like a double twist. It's like, you know, Sharon's teamed up with Batroc, or not necessarily that, but as in like he's a force to be played with here, and he's forced to be reckoned with. I hope that's not what was intended there, because I thought it was obvious that he was definitely inevitably coming back because of his appearance in the first
I mean,
episode. So
what was she doing? Because, she hires Batroc the Leaper, and then he decides to, perform this service for free so that he can kill Bucky and Sam, or I suppose especially Sam. So what was her goal there? Did she want to hire him to help her kill Carl? Because honestly, these shows give me such a headache. Like, what was her intention there? Because hires she hires him to, I guess, deal with Bucky and Sam, but they were never coming after her. And she didn't want him to kill Carly because she wanted Carly to come back and work for her. And then she kills her, so that I guess she just doesn't get away. But did she hire Batroc? Like, because she doesn't want Sam and Bucky dead. So did she hire Batroc so that she could kill Batroc in front of the two of them to secure their trust? Like, because she already had that. Like, why did she need to do that?
I mean, I just feel like making this face for the thumbnail, just like what's going on here. Like, it's just like what's happened. I mean, I don't know. It's maybe because maybe it's partly my fault. Partly should have our fault for not rewatching the episode. But then I kind of feel like even with a rewatch, it complicates things further because like it makes us even more confused. I don't know, mate. It's a confusing one. I think they really did a disservice to the Sharon Carter character because looking back if I rewatch Winter Soldier or Captain America: Civil War, I don't want Sharon Carter to succeed. She's kind of an anti-hero now, which I don't know. It's a bit weird, but I don't think I can understand it.
Yeah, I mean, if she's in charge of the crime if she's in charge of the crime in the crime capital of the world, does that make her like a good person amongst that or the worst person? Like, it's kind of hard to call. I mean, she plans to sell U.S. government secrets, to people in Madripoor, I guess. So that is a big no-no. So I'd probably steer towards villain, but also like, where does she go from here? Because the characters in WandaVision naturally lead, their development naturally leads into Doctor Strange 2, and then for Sam, this naturally bleeds into the Captain America 4 film, which was announced following the release of this, and I presume Bucky can tag along for that. But if Sharon Carter wasn't even a good enough or sufficient villain to be the villain of this Disney Plus show, she obviously can't be central or probably even the B-list villain in a Captain America film.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like, what level of content could she possibly be the antagonist of?
Yeah,
I think one episode of, like, she seems like the type of character that would be like, the villain in one episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then, the character's immediately binned. Like, that feels like the level of development they've gone for.
Yeah, I think they're maybe going for a Thunderbolts type thing, but then I don't know if they have the roster to kind of make that a movie. It's hard to say, mate. Like, it's complicated. It's confusing. Melts my brain, mate. I don't know what they're doing with that. I'm gutted. They sort of made Sharon Carter that villain. I really I'm devastated. I really like their character.
Yeah, I think they definitely have the roster for a Thunderbolts team. I don't see how Sharon Carter fits into that. Because she doesn't have any form of like visual interest. Like Baron Zemo is just a common criminal. He's very very methodical. He's a planner. But he's not really like a physical presence. But at least he has visual impact with his look. He has the furry collar and the purple hood. Like, it's a striking character look. And you have that with U.S. Agent. I don't think we quite have that with Yelena Belova from the Black Widow film.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of other people who could cast in this crew. But Sharon Carter, like, she doesn't have any visual interest, and she's just, like a very common bad guy. Sort of a manipulator behind the scenes. Like, I don't think there's anything of uniqueness or particular interest that she could carry, being the villain, the sole villain in any project, or even like a small cog in a bigger machine. Like, I feel like there's just nothing to her.
I feel the same way. I mean, I think I've exercised all possible options there.
This show's just giving me a headache talking about this, honestly. Like, it might be just because this is the first podcast back, but like, I just feel like this has turned me insane. Like because we've been away from the show for so long, I didn't realize that watching it just made my brain feel like goo.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, mate, I suppose, like, do you have any more comments to say on the show, or did you just want to hop in with like an overall reflection of it as a series?
Well, if I can say one very good thing about every single episode, it was Sam and Bucky.
Yeah,
I
definitely. Yeah,
absolutely love their development. I don't think it was necessary. I think a lot of what happens here is implicit. You would think between movies, if they just did Captain America 4, and you saw the two of them together, you'd go, oh, it's been a year since the end of Endgame. They must have become friends. I don't think you need to see that, to know that. I think it's fairly implicit that would happen.
yeah,
That would be a natural progression. So I don't think any of it was necessary, but it didn't mean I didn't that I disliked seeing it. I really loved seeing them together, and they're of course both naturally very funny characters, very funny actors. So it was a
yeah.
fun watch. I could have done without the Flag Smashers and John Walker. I was up and down on. Sharon Carter. They've
In the
done her
bin.
character so dirty. Like she is so uninteresting,
The bottled it,
but
like
also now she's a bad guy.
the
So you
bottled it.
can't agree with her on like a moral level or on interest of her character. So it's just I feel like that character's just in the bin a bit. So it is a bit of a shame. But I love fan service, so I loved seeing all the fan favorites come back, especially Zemo. I thought he made a big impact. So I saw some big highlights within this show, and I think it came together cohesively enough. I think whatever that excised plot line was, I think it would have tied it all together. I think there is just something big missing.
Agreed. Yeah,
That I think means that it doesn't come together. Especially like all the Flag Smasher motivation, I think was just a little weak. And whenever that's your central antagonist, I think development's really integral. So I had my issues with it, but overall, I think it was a pleasant viewing experience
yeah.
for the
And I
most
suppose,
part.
mate, yeah, I suppose, mate, would that lead into, if you want to do ratings out of 10 for the series as a whole, not necessarily episodes, but like, would that, I'm sort of, if I'm gonna guess your rating for it, I'm probably sensing like a 7.5 to an 8. What would you give it?
I'm really conflicted on this because I have no idea what I give WandaVision. I imagine fairly positive, eight or nine probably. It was a show that I expected to like a lot more than I did, and a show I expected to like a lot more than Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I think I did. I'm not quite sure. Their villain presence was stronger, the writing was stronger, but I really, and what they did to bring in comic accuracy and set up for the future costumes. I thought everything in regards to that was brilliant. Just sort of behind the scenes, they let themselves down with how they managed expectations. So I think with how that show was made, aside from what happened behind the scenes, I think that show was more competently made
Mhm.
than this show. But I really did have some high points here. So again, I'm struggling to rate TV, but yeah, I'd probably put it in the 7.5 range,
I mean, on that note,
seven
mate,
and a half,
like,
8.
I know personally speaking, my rating systems don't make sense because if you look back, if anyone's watching this and looks back at the previous 3 episode reviews, I've given every episode a 10, and that's not necessarily because I think they're perfect. I think I've openly said that in those reviews. Like, there's not anything particularly I could say is perfect about them, but that being said, there's not anything I particularly fault. But I think once you, especially with miniseries, once you have time to collect your thoughts, and finish off the season, you can have a bit of time to reflect on the tone of the show and what it had to offer. And I think the tone is consistent, but the whole show just feels confused as to what it wants to be, what it wants to do, where it wants to go, especially with some character plot lines as well. That being said, like you said, the fan service incredible, costumes even better, dynamics incredible as well. It's just, I think it was it's a classic MCU problem, mate. Just when you think they're getting good at it, bottle the villain again. It's a pity to see, and I hope that's not going to be a trend that's continuing. Although with movies like Black Widow and the Eternals, I do feel that could be a possibility. But yeah, it's just as you think it's improving, it gets bad again. But fingers crossed, it's just a little blip. But yeah, I mean, I think the show just feels confused. I really do think it does. But with that in mind, it's not bad. It's still a very, very good show, with a very good budget. You can tell a lot of time has been put into it. You know, it's a big budget, you know, I was going to call it a big budget picture. It's not a movie, but it does have that kind of essence to it. So for me, it probably runs out in at 8. Probably if I were going to say which one do I prefer more, I'd probably go WandaVision at this stage. Although with Loki could definitely be one of those shows, mate, where like I have no hype behind it and end up loving it. Like it definitely could be one of those shows. It's just hard to say right now. But yeah, probably an 8 from me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You know, it is confused with, you know, where it wants to go and what it wants to be. But I do think one thing that I've commented on is in regards to Sam, you know, being conflicted about taking up the shield, and then the influence of Isaiah Bradley. What is very commendable about the show is what it has to say. You know, in regards to that, you know, I think, you know, I didn't expect to see that in an MCU project, and you know, I think I preferred, you know, how that was handled to how the Flag Smashers were handled. You know, it felt a lot more organic. You know, and I really respect the show, because you know, when you're talking about, you know, human rights and you know, the you know, the fact that anyone would take issue with, you know, Sam becoming Captain America, you know, that's not remotely political. That's just, you know, you being, you know, a not good person. You know, if you think that, you know, his ethnicity has anything to do with his you know, capacity to be a hero, you know, that's just you know, an issue of character. You know, so I think that was appropriate to be brought into this, and you know, that didn't remove any form of escapism because it was an issue that needed to be talked about. You know, whereas I think other issues that the show touched on took the escapism element out of it, and you know, made it not light entertainment. But when it comes to Sam, you know, being questioned as to whether he should be Captain America, you know, I think that was necessary, and I really respected the show for it.
1,000,000%. And the whole Isaiah plotline, I feel bad because I didn't give it enough airtime than it deserved, because it is a fantastic plotline. And I mean, yeah, the whole Sam Wilson speech at the end is incredible too. So I think you're right. I think the show has a lot to say. It's just the overall themes is maybe a little bit confused. But that being said, mate, that wraps up another Marvel kind of mini series review. Obviously, we did WandaVision episode by episode, but as the viewers know, we took a wee break here, and I've sort of decided to collect these episodes into one single podcast. So we hope you guys did enjoy this one. It's been a bit of a long one. Gladly not an hour and a half long for the viewers, but it's been a good run time. I think we've got everything off our chest we wanted to say about the show. And yeah, I suppose next week Loki starts, doesn't it? So we'll probably be doing episodic reviews there. And of course, Calvin had mentioned the Fast and Furious films there. We'll be hopping on that train again with part 2 this week as well. We're recording this on a Sunday, but it will be up on the Monday. So we will kind of be doing quite a few videos this week, as well as hopefully Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather reaction video if that fight is interesting enough, because we're kind of trying to diversify the content a little bit more. It's been something we've been speaking about off camera, be it, you know, personality type videos, sort of get to know us videos, maybe even gym videos, just things like that. We get to know us a bit more, those kind of things. So yeah, Callum, it's been a pleasure, mate, to be back recording with you again, mate. It feels just
I do
natural.
physically have a massive headache after that, and I don't know whether it's the show
Sharon Carter
or just
stuff.
because yeah, or just because we haven't done this in so long. But like I feel drained.
Yeah, no, mate, I'm tired as well. It's pretty late at night. We're recording this anyway. It's like 11 o'clock, so we're both pretty tired. But yeah, thanks very much, Callum, for today. I appreciate it, man. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys are all well. Hope your family and friends are all safe and well too. Thanks, everyone. Really do appreciate it. Take care, and see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.